Hello, today is November 29, 2015, and this is Overgrowth Weekly 104 with Q&A number 20. My name is Lukas.
I'm Anton Real.
I'm David Rosen.
And I'm Max Danielson.
And today, for the first time ever, we have 3 people in the same room, so that's pretty exciting, for one time at least.
Yes.
So, yeah, exciting stuff. But let's jump straight to the interesting stuff, I suppose. So, what's been going on since last time? We have 2 new programmers, Turo and Tuomas from Alternative Games in Finland have joined us as programmers. I guess they're sort of consulting programmers.
Yeah, they worked on a lot of ports for Humble Bundle, but they also have a lot of specialty in graphics and other general technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
I think porters are one of the best at reading code, which is, I think, the most important programming skill. It's kind of underrated. Like, writing code is easy, reading code is hard.
Right. Because with reading code, you have to kind of understand what someone was trying to do, even if they don't say it explicitly, which uncommented code probably is that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is the code commented right now?
I usually try and make code that doesn't require comments,
Oh, okay.
but we'll see.
Yeah.
2 new programmers should speed things up once they get up to speed. Currently, well, we're gonna get to what they're doing currently in a little while, but yeah, 2 new programmers should be pretty cool.
Yes.
So
They've been doing well so far. They have been cleaning up a lot, asking a lot of questions, good questions,
yes.
Yeah.
making a lot of comments and points, and yeah, it's just right on track. It's a lot of fun actually. They're cleaning up a lot of things that have been bothering me too. It's like, yeah,
We'll
it's
get to
making
that.
life easier.
We'll get to that stuff a bit more in a moment.
Yeah.
The next thing that has happened is that we're gonna, like the last alpha was a bit scary because we all commit to the same branch on Git, and we committed a lot towards the end. So what we're gonna do now is release an advanced testing branch on Steam, and then just keep that feature frozen, so that we're gonna have more stable alphas from now on, hopefully. So that's a thing that has happened. So should be useful. Alpha 2.11 was released with 4 new prototype arenas that Josh has been working on.
Yay, Josh.
So that's pretty much
Yeah, Josh.
the unspecific things that have happened, I guess, since the last Overgrowth Weekly. And if we jump on to what has happened otherwise with the development of the thing, so I think we're sort of still in like a slow... What are you doing?
Someone was asking Anton how he's chatting.
They were asking me how I'm chatting, so I had
Okay.
to... Woo!
No, I'm just like, are you inserting like advertising
Yes.
in the stream, Anton? Totally makes sense.
Yeah, funded by Apple.
I can mail these to you. You can cover them up.
Yeah. Where's my Wolfire logo?
I have one of those, so you can... I have one left.
Oh, right. Yeah, stick it on there.
When apples is good. So yeah, I think like last alpha and this alpha are not going to contain a lot of code changes, just because, well, Micah has been a lot sick. Max is still working on behind the scenes stuff. David, you're working on the sniper project. And we have Turo and Tuomas now, but they just started this week, depending on if you think weeks start on Sundays or Mondays. They start on Mondays, by the way. In this case.
Wow. I really want to talk about that, but I don't think it's relevant to today's conversation.
So, anyway, they just started out, so they don't know the code base well enough to really start working and adding new stuff to it, so they've been doing other smaller things.
So it'll be code changes, but not feature.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. They've been done a bunch of code changes, but nothing that affects features.
Exactly.
But
They're very keen on performance, though. So
some of it should really affect performance, right?
Not right now.
Oh.
In the long run, it will. Like what they've found are things that could result in catastrophic failures in certain conditions.
I see.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, so good stuff in the long run, cleaning stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're still in a slow phase. So yeah, like I've said sometime before, I think like once Micah gets better and can continue working like better, like more time on the game. Once Max gets back to actually working on the engine and not have to work on behind the scenes stuff, and once David comes back from the sniper project, then once Turo and Tuomas can start working on more like actual like features and things like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna be more like 5 programmers on the game instead of half of a programmer. So
It's gonna be
hopefully
fun coordinating that, or
there'll be
interesting.
more
I mean,
stuff happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, the goal is still to create the arena mode and get that up and running.
yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's so exciting.
Should we let Max talk about the next thing on that list?
Sure. Nav meshes now generate on level load.
Yeah. What's that about, Max?
Yeah, what is it about, man? Yeah, so now nav meshes are generated when you load a level. I think previously that was partially disabled because I think it was like the map makers like responsibility to ship it with the level. But as it stood,
Which we never
just
did.
like
We never.
okay, so what I did was I added a meta file for levels so that the game knows for what hash of a level the current nav mesh was made and what version of the game, so it can regenerate them if it feels like something has changed.
Yeah. So basically,
But it
this
still
is
catches
going to. This is because we want to release the arenas, and for the arenas to work properly, they need to have nav meshes, and so we have to make sure that they exist when you start the level, and it's going to increase load times. But I think it's more important that the game actually plays the way it's supposed to play than the game loading really fast and then it's not working like it's supposed to, and you have to manually go in and generate the nav mesh anyway. So
in the long run, we will ship with the nav meshes when the deployment assistant can handle them. But as it stands, it's done on the client if it's missing.
Right. And the most obvious thing that people saw as an example of what the nav meshes do is people were complaining in the new arenas that the enemies would just run into a pillar and just run into the wall, and it's because they don't realize there's a wall there. And so then they complain, oh, the AI is dumb, it doesn't know where a wall is. And the truth is that the AI only knows what it's being told, but if it knows that there's something there, it will avoid it.
The fun thing right now is that the nav mesh is being generated on the levels Josh has made don't really work. The levels have different like distinguishing features that haven't really been seen before. So the nav meshes are really limited or odd. So we're going to have to like polish them a bit, the routines for them, and adjust the level, I'm guessing, as well.
You're talking about the prototype arenas that's in...
Yeah, the ones that have been released so far.
Yeah.
Like, there's more work.
Right. There are definitely some sort of elements like channels where having a lot of varied structure, they don't necessarily know how to get around that or necessarily how to jump up, which jumping is something that needs to come back.
Yeah. So that
working on
it. Next point, I think,
jumping AI.
Yeah, jumping AI.
Which is that there will be 3 new arenas in the next alpha that should work better with the AI. And I'm thinking, I haven't asked you about this yet, David, or if this like is a fine thing to do, but I would like to remove the old arenas and replace them with these 3 arenas, just because they're gonna work better with the gameplay. So we'll see what we do with that. But these 3 arenas would be like planned to be actually working with the current technology that we have in the game, so that we can actually put them inside of the arena mode and have them be, 3 official arenas that should all work all well.
Right.
And soon there is going to be. What are you doing? You reading the chat or
just?
Okay. Yeah, there should be a blog post from Steve out pretty soon. about character design. So it's been fun to help him with that, like make thumbnails and stuff.
Nice.
It's gonna be packed with images, like more image space than text space, I think. So very interesting blog post.
Those are maybe the best for
The best blog post
for art blog posts is when it's mostly pictures.
Yeah, exactly. So
Goes for most blog posts.
What did you say, Max?
I said it goes for most blog posts that a picture-heavy one is preferred.
Pictures are nice.
Well, because people don't like to read.
Yeah.
Pictures.
Yeah. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. So for every picture, it's like an entire paragraph.
I mean, if you just count it economically, it makes sense.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, Steve's post is going to be like a novel.
Yeah.
Nice. So look forward to a novel post. Sorry for the double entendre. All right.
We forgive you, Anton. So, jumping into the questions for this time. I haven't looked specifically at which questions we should pick, but I guess we can just take this first one by Thomason 1005, who asks, I still wonder if there's still happening something with the under glass jam thing. There was supposed to be an unfinished release, I think, kind of liked the assets and stuff.
I haven't worked on that since that jam, really. I was kind of excited about the engine that I wrote for it, and Aubrey created some really cool assets that never quite came together into a proper game. So I might revisit it at some point, but I have a lot on my plate right now, so it won't be for a while.
Yeah. I'd like to get the music out for that one too. I really liked what I did, but
what sort of music was it?
It was very impressionistic, so it kind of reminded me a little bit of Turo Tuomas and some other earlier impressionists like Debussy a little bit. So, yeah.
A lot of piano, right?
Well, it was mostly flutes in the lead instrument, and then I had
Okay.
piano and harp kind of doing arpeggios that were sort of contrary. So the flute was this kind of slow theme, and then flute and harp were harp and piano were kind of playing these da 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 arpeggio things. So, yeah, I liked that one though. It was very serene most of the time. So. And then some weird like industrial sounding drum loops that went on top of that.
Cool, yeah. So do you think it's do you think you could release that music or like get that downloadable and stuff?
It doesn't really exist in a format where you hear all of the music clearly. Like right now, it's kind of sections that were designed to loop, and then it just kind of is like, here's one section, here's another section, here's another section, as opposed to any sort of phrasing. So I could probably do it in a couple hours.
Yeah, okay.
But
you would basically need to manually put together like something that makes sense.
Yeah, because right now it's designed to be dynamic.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be hard. It would just be a matter of kind of putting it together, deciding which of the two drum beats I like more, because they kind of have very different tempos, which sounds odd, but it was just kind of the way we played them. So yeah.
So Rodeje says that it feels like an excuse, like same excuse for like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on this. But I mean, you're actually working on something else. So I don't know.
I think I'd say it's a reason more than an excuse. It's like, I'd love to go back and work on it, but then I have to not work on something else. And then someone will say, oh, that's an excuse to not work on Sniper Game or Overgrowth.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're working on Under Glass.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of how that game jam went, we didn't get to a point where it was really releasable. So it would take, I think, a more significant time to get it to that point than what we currently have time for. So the rewards for the amount of time spent are not necessarily very beneficial at the moment.
The only way to actually get more stuff happening is to hire more people, and that's what I'm doing. So, hopefully we can get more things done.
Right.
Yeah, doing what you can. Good. All right. So we have a bunch of questions from Jake. Jake almost. I mean, Wake.
I saw. I did see. Sorry, I saw a question in the chat that was also asked this week. So since they asked it both times, it was in Twitch. Their name is Soft Square. They said, should rabbits, and then in parentheses, and cats, they should at least be able to land on their feet. Should they be more resistant to fall damage than the other characters because of how they land? Is that how much fall damage is currently taken by characters, and should that be reduced for certain races?
Well, it's possible I should make the active ragdolls for the rabbits and cats more able to land on their feet, better able to protect themselves.
Right.
But I haven't done that or really thought about that yet. So that's a good idea.
That's only but the active ragdolls are only if you're ragdolling. What happens if you just fall from a higher height? You don't necessarily go into ragdoll state to get damage, do you?
Well, when they're falling from a really high height, it kind of doesn't matter because they're going to land on their feet anyway. Just because their feet are below them.
Right.
I think the reason why real cats have limited fall damage is because they're light enough that their surface area gives them a fairly low terminal velocity.
Right.
So no matter how high they fall from, they still have a bit of a built-in parachute from just being light and lots of
stretchy.
Yeah, and they have this ability to always land on their feet too, which is beneficial for protecting themselves from damage.
Yeah, which is a little bit mixed.
It's not entirely true. They're very good at it, but cats can fall and not land on their feet, so it's a little bit of a misnomer. But
they can if you drop a cat from any height, can they always adjust themselves to land on their feet as long as they have enough time?
The roof.
They're pretty good at it. Yeah. So pretty good.
Do you think you could make an active ragdoll for the cats that make them do a certain animation when they're upside down until they're on the right side up, and then
I think so.
Land on their feet? That would be pretty awesome.
I could figure out a way to do that. That's probably not priority one.
Probably not.
That would definitely be a good thing to add.
Right. It would certainly be a good way to differentiate the races in certain situations. Fairly understandably.
I mean, also, if there's a reason for it in some situation. If you're fighting a special boss that you're fighting high up and he's falling down from somewhere, then it is used in some respect.
Right.
But if it's just an aspect that is and you're always in a desert on a flat ground, it's never going to be.
Well, I could see it potentially being useful in a parkour situation. Maybe even your falling speed, because you are light and you have skin, if you get to that point, you might be able to travel a little further or something without falling quite as fast, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So there we go.
There we go. I think this question from Wake is something that Max could answer, perhaps. So the question is, for the mod support, you have mentioned a new XML file to describe the mod, with author information, game name, version number, files to overload, etc. This makes the engine relatively data-driven, meaning that the program will not have to have its control flow hard-coded, but instead declared upstream by data files it loads in. Will you consider taking it even further and treat Overgrowth as a mod?
So in the old thinking, that would have maybe be a yes, but I don't think we're going to that's not really going to be a consideration from our part. We're going to build the engine for our game, but then allow other people to make their stuff as long as it matches that. Also, anything that I touch tends to move towards becoming more data-driven. That's just the way I like things working. But yeah, not as a focus point, unless that's a directive we would like to instate.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that, David?
Well, as we add more mod support, it tends to go in that direction. But
yeah,
we're not going explicitly all the way there like they do for the Unreal and Quake games, where like Carmack will just think of it explicitly as an engine and a game, and the game is a mod. Like you ship Quake 2 and Quake2.dll, which could be SoldierFortune.dll or whatever. So if something is a lot easier to hard code in, then still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the way the engine works right now. I would like to, like anything that is in the AngularScript layer, to use more of the same APIs that mods are like intended to use to allow mods to hook into more aspects of the game. But that's something that's just going to be like I think a continuous consideration whenever we're building new stuff for the game. So like you register things into some kind of interface towards the engine. But yeah, that's just like loose thoughts at the moment.
So we have another question by Wake. In the changelog for Alpha 209, it says progress on native UI widgets. Will you replace Osonium? On Linux, so many dependencies are needed to get Phoenix to work because of it.
It's tempting sometimes, but I think it's also unlikely, just because it would take a lot of work, and there would be no visible results aside from that. Like, it might run a little faster, it'll have fewer dependencies, but then we'll get all these comments saying, why did you spend all this work and there's nothing to show for it?
Yeah, unless there's like some kind of breaking bug that we can't fix, and there's no giant performance boost from it.
Or maybe in some specific cases, like, let's say, like the item spawner, for instance. That one is pretty slow right now, probably because we're using Osonium, because we could speed it up a much if we.
Yeah, I think actually we can speed it up with Osonium though. Like if we just make the rendering of the items in it more dynamic with JavaScript instead of having all of them loaded immediately, instead of like doing it like a website would, where you scroll down and it loads more items. That would bring down the performance demand of it, like it take down memory usage and CPUs.
We can already see some aspects of that just from the community tab, where the community tab loads all of its files from a JSON file as opposed to all within the HTML file, which is how the rest of the menu currently works. And it loads the community page a little faster as long as the whole thing loads. So as long as it loads at all, the community page loads pretty fast, I think. Because it loads it dynamically as opposed to statically.
Maybe building it from scratch with like something else would be a lot of work. If we can keep it within the current item browser and just try to make that more reasonable, I think that's better right now.
We could probably just give you that code if you guys want to implement it.
Yeah, I've been bugging Yep about trying to get the source for Osonium, but he hasn't had a contact with the original developer for a while, so. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. This one could be fun, I suppose. Mad Executioner asks, have you thought about virtual reality support for Overgrowth? I think it could work really well, even more so than a similar first-person game, because they are more likely to make you motion sick if they are fast-paced.
So virtual reality in third person is kind of interesting, because I guess you'd be kind of looking around from behind the character. One thing I'd be worried about is how the camera sort of orbits the character. Like, that could have a lot of potential for making someone motion sick, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to experiment with, or fun to just try putting the camera in their head. But I get motion sick really easily, so I probably wouldn't be the one to be testing this out.
Well,
yeah,
or you would be, because if it works for you, then it's gonna work for everyone.
True.
But you're gonna have a few days off, maybe, from just because I know the sickness has a hard time going away once you get hard. It's for like can last for many hours once you've gotten it.
The first time I tried VR in the Oculus Rift generation, I was sick for like 3 days.
Yeah, that happened to me too. I think I played Half-Life 2 for like 2 hours.
Oh no.
And then like my brain rewired itself to not be able to like lock my eyes on stuff. Mm-hmm. So whenever I moved my head, I got motion sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
It felt very strange. Our brains are not really meant for that kind of experience.
Yeah, because the blurriness and the undefinedness of the virtual reality experience made my brain think like, oh, this is how the world is now. I just can't focus on things.
Yeah,
So
and a reptile brain is just telling us, like, you ate something really poisonous.
yeah,
Get it out.
I mean, part of that is where we focus our eyes and where objects what's the word I'm thinking of? Converge. Where objects converge and where we focus in real life are the same location. So when I'm like, there's a windowsill in front of me, my eyes are converging in that location and they're focusing to that depth. But when you are playing in virtual reality, or when you're wearing stereoscopic glasses or anything like that designed to simulate that, you have to focus on the screen. So if you're in a movie, you have to focus on the screen, but something may converge in front of the screen or behind the screen, and your brain doesn't know how to deal with that. So you're always, there's a little bit of disparity between
your brain is like, this thing is this close, so I should need to focus my eyes on that distance, but then you actually need to focus on infinity.
Correct.
We'll need some kind of like light field generation technology, which doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, holographic technology is the closest we have, and there's not enough funding going into that. But holography has every element of light recreation available to it. So if you were able to figure out a way to record holographs at a more efficient rate and then have a playback system for holography, it would make everything much more realistic, and you wouldn't have to wear glasses. You would actually be able to project it into a three-dimensional space. So if you were to watch a movie in a hologram, you would actually be able to move around the item, and everything would happen parallax, and you would be able to see from every dimension because it literally records the light. The kind of scary thing about holography is the way that it records it is virtually indistinguishable to our eyes between the real thing. So yeah,
That's what makes it cool.
We're not going to be pioneering holograms in Overgrowth.
Oh man!
Spoiler.
Just to make that clear.
We can probably do one more question.
Oh yeah, we have to wrap up on time today. Ish.
So let's pick a good one.
You see one you like?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Now I just upped the ante and now I can't pick one. So let's just go with this one from Glade. Glade asks, when will the game's story be ironed out? Is Turner the main character, or do we get to create our own with him as a supporting character? Do you have an interest in having open world aspects built in other than mods? Will this game have a continuation, even DLC?
Those are some pretty big questions.
Yep.
For now, I mostly want to focus on the story for the arena, which will not really have Turner as the main character necessarily. So, we want to start with that and see how that goes, and then figure out what other stories we want to tell exactly. But we kind of have to do one thing at a time.
Yeah. That's it, I suppose. So yeah. Can bring up my notes so I know what to say. So yeah.
I could have. Rodeje wants to talk about the morphological anti-aliasing.
Right. And split screen. Split screen will come back, but it's broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
It won't be very hard to fix.
It won't be very
No.
I don't think it'll be hard to fix.
No, I started digging into it. I couldn't find a quick fix, so went back to what I was doing. Maybe it's something we can push on Tuomas and Turo.
Will the split screen fix give us actual cameras that can size properly? Or are we still going to live with black bars for a while? Meaning, if we fix it, is it a fix that's worth changing at the same time?
Yeah, it may have to be changed a bit. I don't think that's just...
Because it was a pretty simplistic split screen to start with, right?
Yeah.
Everything was rendered twice, I think, right? Yeah, we have to still do that, but like it was like literally looping over the renderer once more in its entirety with a different camera.
Yeah, and there were some issues with that, like audio was only being picked up from one camera and not the other one.
Yeah, it's hard to fix that when you have one pair of speakers. It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think fixing split screen won't be super hard. It's just not a crazy technical problem. It might take a couple days.
Yeah.
About subpixel morphological anti-aliasing.
Yeah, that's a bit more. That's more
I'm
of
kind
a.
of skeptical of any kind of post-process anti-aliasing, just because they're all just a form of selective blurring.
Yeah.
You just don't have enough information to do like proper anti-aliasing, and it's just
Which
a
is
question of how well can you fake it. And I'd prefer, if possible, to just keep support for multi-sample anti-aliasing, which is basically just like super sampling edges. So you actually render it multiple times and average it together, just because that's like the canonical way to get perfect anti-aliasing is to do that.
Yeah, it's the correct naive solution.
He says this one isn't blurring.
We'll have to look at the specific details of this one. I'm not actually familiar with subpixel morphological anti-aliasing.
Yeah. Alright, so I guess we'll wrap it with that. Follow OG Weekly on Twitter and on YouTube to get updates and recordings and things like that. And on ogweekly.com we have the archives. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.